From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast designed to empower women to become the leaders they are destined to be. I wanted to share a lesson today on living with intention. I come back to this subject because I think so many of us struggle with drifting away from our priorities, drifting away from our intentions, drifting into bad habits. You know, it just tends to be a challenge, I think, for many of us, certainly me included, that we tend to lose our focus sometimes, and then therefore we lose our intention, and that kind of dilutes our energy and time, and it ends up costing us in terms of time and energy and concentration, and that makes us less effective at anything that we're trying to do in life. So, the thing is that every one of us wants a life of meaning and achievement and fulfillment, right? We all have hopes and dreams and goals to become the best version of ourselves, and we all yearn to achieve our potential. The desire, or maybe I should say the need, to become the best versions of ourselves is just part of the human experience and the human story, right? It's how we're wired. And there's something inside every single one of us that's shouting, I want to reach my potential and become the person God created me to be. We were created for purpose, and our greatest joy is realizing purpose, and our greatest satisfaction is fulfilling it. And we honor the gifts that God gave us when we steward them. I always think of this analogy in terms of a similarity to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Where it begins at the bottom. You've probably seen it back in the day, or back in high school maybe. Where at the very bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the pyramid is basic needs like food and water and shelter, right? Those are our most critical, most basic, fundamental needs. And the hierarchy progresses through the top, to the top of self-actualization, right? So our basic fundamental needs come first with food and water and shelter. There's a next layer for social belonging, and there's a need for safety. And then as we progress to the top, at the very top of the pyramid is self-actualization. And in Maslow's hierarchy, only after every level of the hierarchy has been satisfied is it possible to move up. In other words, it's rather impossible to reach your God-given potential if you were scrambling every day just to find food and water and a place to sleep, right? It's just simply a matter of not being able to direct your energy toward fulfilling your calling if you're using your energy toward fulfilling those basic needs. Energy is not really lost, but time certainly is. And one thing I realize is that my time, your time, everyone's time is very, it's limited, right? It's something that there's only so much of it. And since you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not literally scrambling to find food and shelter today, or maybe you are, but figuratively, when we are unable to execute on the small daily disciplines, we're unable to fulfill the higher calling that's placed on our lives. So I love to think of the quote by Hal Elrod. Remember that who you're becoming is far more important than what you're doing. And yet it's what you're doing that's determining who you're becoming. Right? You can't be all that you can be until you master the basic discipline of daily choices. The greatest gap in the world is the gap between what we know we should do and what we do. I've said this before, but how many of us know that we should drink 8 glasses of water every day and exercise at least 3 times a week? But how many of us actually do it? I mean, I know I don't drink 8 glasses of water every day. I do some days, but not every day. And yet we all know we should, but we don't always do it. But we don't fail to reach a goal or achieve our dreams because we're broken or flawed or there's something wrong with us. When a baby is born, We call that a miracle, and we don't become any less miraculous as we age. We don't turn from miracle to mediocre by our 10th birthday. We're not broken. There's nothing wrong with us. We're just human. We often have great intentions, but we lack the ability to execute. And that's where the power of staying on track and staying focused and living with intention comes in. Sometimes something fun gets in the way of our priorities, or life happens, or maybe it's problems and challenges, right? Certainly, life will throw plenty unexpected problems your way. And sometimes we just let insignificant things get in our way of what we most need to do. And then we get frustrated with ourselves and we give up completely, and we just say, oh, maybe next year, maybe next January I'll pick up this challenge again or this goal again. But when that happens, we might never reach our goal or build our dreams. And somehow we fail to reach our God-given potential, either because we don't believe it's possible, or because we are unwilling to make the sacrifices necessary to turn vision into reality. Now, let me assure you, it is absolutely possible. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, as Psalms 139:14 promises us. And God doesn't create mistakes, right? I said this earlier. There's nothing wrong with us. We're simply human. God created us, each and every one of us, with potential, but transforming ourselves into the person who can reach that potential is up to us. Personal transformation is a process that occurs over time with consistent, intentional, forward progress. Now, let me also assure you, it's not going to happen by accident, because that's where the sacrifice comes in. We actually have to do something different if we want life to be different. I share the story sometimes of back in, soon after I left home, and my parents' home, and I didn't have a job or any money. I didn't have a high school diploma because I'd never been to school, and the only job that I could find was waiting tables at Pizza Hut. And back then, I was making $2.13 an hour to pick up half-eaten pizza crust off the floor and bus tables. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It was good work, and I was proud to get it. But it didn't take me long to realize that's just not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. But I also realized that the job of my dreams wasn't going to come find me at Pizza Hut, right? I had to do something different if I wanted life to be different. Vision alone isn't enough. We absolutely have to take action. Our lives are our stories, and we write a chapter every day by the actions we take and the choices we make. And every day we make the right choices, we build integrity by honoring the commitments that we make to ourselves and to others, and we become more in alignment with who we're intended to be. John Maxwell said it this way: every time we choose action over ease, we develop an increasing level of self-worth, self-respect, and self-confidence. So the key to really reaching our potential is living life on purpose, with purpose, and for a purpose. We have to make every day matter. We have to make every decision matter. It's important to know what your priorities are, absolutely, but it's just as important to live them out every day, because when we do, we realize the power to make every day amazing or awesome or incredible is within us. So, I realized living life on purpose was the key to reaching my potential. I became rather single-minded about it, and I still am. But the power of focus and living out my priorities has allowed me to achieve incredible things. Not because I'm special, but because the principles of intentional living and applied discipline are special. Consistent execution. Well, trust me, there's a wide gap between where I was at 19 years old working in that pizza restaurant and where I am today as a TEDx speaker and author and a leadership trainer and speaker. That's a wide gap, right? There's a lot that has to happen, and it doesn't happen by accident. None of us get to be successful in life by accident. So my story is still being written, and yours is too, but you can achieve nearly anything when we are willing to do what it takes. It's not easy, but it is possible. And more importantly, it's worth it. Now, most often we are the ones that get in our own way, and overcoming most of the obstacles in life is easy compared to overcoming ourselves. Right? I forget who says that I am my own greatest enemy, but it's true. A lot of times we know what we should do. We just don't always want to do it, or we won't do it. So, all that to say how important it is for us to consistently carry out and live every day with purpose and for purpose. And I talk about that a lot, but I'm passionate about it because here's why. Managing and leading ourselves is the key to being able to influence others, right? The better I am at leading me, the easier it becomes at influencing others. And life gets better when we have more influence, right? We get more opportunities, we get more job opportunities, we get more influence with other people. In any dimension of life, when we focus on managing ourselves better, me management is what I call it, right? But leading me is the key to influencing others. So, I know I come back to that topic, but I just encourage you to look at the choices that you're making every single day. A lot of times we create the habits and we're not intentional about a lot of our choices because, it's impossible to think through every decision that we make. Little decisions like what to eat or how we have our morning routine, right? Those are decisions and choices that sometimes we've created a routine or made some choices that kind of become habits. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I would challenge you as you go through your day-to-day, look at your habits that you've created in your life, and are they serving you well? One of my most powerful habits is starting every day with intention. I sit down for just a few minutes and I spend some time thinking about what's a physical commitment that I want to make today to be healthier. What's a priority or a list of priorities, a couple priorities that I need to focus on today in order to get these done? What's the most important thing, number one, that needs to happen today? I've shared with you before, that's one of the reasons I wrote my series of motivational planning journals, because it's a simple but very effective and powerful tool that just lets you go through that exercise, right? It's creating a habit of intentionality in those first few minutes of your day. And that allows you to be so much more effective throughout the rest of the day. Now, you don't have to use one of my journals. There's certainly lots of great tools out there. Just find one that works for you. You can find more information on my series of journals at riastory.com/journals. But certainly there's tons of really great tools out there. If nothing else, sit down with a sheet of paper. That's how I started several years ago. And, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive. You just have to do it. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.